The sun was soft that morning, resting gently over the wide land of the Apache people. The desert did not feel harsh that day. Instead, it seemed calm, as if it knew something important was happening. The warm air moved slowly across the open fields, carrying the scent of sage and the distant sound of drums. In the center of the village, the people were preparing for a wedding, one that everyone believed would bring hope to their community. Taza, a young Apache warrior respected for his calm strength, was about to marry Nalin, a woman known for her kindness and steady heart. Taza had always been quiet, a man who spoke only when needed. But each time he spoke, his words held meaning. He had grown up learning from the elders, training with the older warriors, and studying the land around them, the sky, the wind, the tracks on the ground. Many in the village trusted his eyes more than their own. When he said the weather would change, it changed. When he said visitors were coming, they appeared. So when he chose Nalin as his bride, no one questioned it. They believed Taza always made choices with care. Nalin, on the other hand, was known for bringing calm wherever she went. Children liked sitting near her because she always told stories that glowed with simple wisdom. Elders admired her because she understood traditions deeply, even though she was young. She helped everyone without hesitation, whether it was gathering herbs, helping with woven blankets, or listening to someone's worries. Many people said she carried peace in her hands, as if she could touch someone's heart and make their fear softer. Their wedding was simple, the way their people preferred things. There were no heavy decorations, no loud celebrations, only soft drums, gentle singing, and the presence of those who mattered. The village did not believe in showing everything with great display. They believed in showing love through actions and respect. Taza stood tall, wearing a robe decorated by his mother, and Nalin wore a dress made from soft duskin, beautifully hand-stitched by the women of her family. When she walked toward him, the breeze lifted a strand of her hair, brushing it across her cheek. Taza noticed it and felt his heart beat in a steady, reassuring way. It was a feeling he knew he wanted to protect forever. As the wedding began, the elders stepped forward. They spoke softly, their voices deep like the land itself. They gave blessings for harmony, strength, patience, and unity. The people surrounded the couple in a circle, showing that the new bride and groom were now held safely within the community. A small fire burned at the center, its flames dancing gently, symbolizing light, guidance, and warmth for their new life together. Taza and Nalin stood in front of the fire, each holding a small handful of cornmeal. They let it fall slowly into the flames, a gesture of gratitude for all the blessings given to them. The entire moment felt still, as if time itself had paused to watch. The sky above was wide and open, painting a quiet blue blanket over the village. Even the horses tied near the edge of the homes seemed calm, listening to the steady rhythm of the drums. When Taza spoke his vows, he did so with a quiet voice that still carried strength. He promised to stand beside Nalin, to keep peace in their home, to walk with her through every season, and to share both hardship and joy with honesty. Nalin answered with her own vows, promising to care for their home, to respect their traditions, to support Taza's responsibilities, and to remain with him, no matter how uncertain the world became. After the vows, the village women brought baskets of food, fresh bread, dried berries, roasted corn, and sweet herbal drinks. Children ran around laughing, happy simply because everyone else was happy. A group of young men began playing flutes, soft notes rising in the warm air like tiny birds. Taza and Nalin sat together on a woven blanket while people came forward to offer gentle words and small gifts: hand-carved wooden beads, a woven belt, a small clay bowl painted with symbols of protection. For a little while, everything felt peaceful, almost perfect. Taza watched Nalin as she laughed with a group of older women telling stories about their own weddings. He loved the way her laughter sounded light, like wind passing through leaves. Nalin looked at Taza from time to time, noticing how he greeted each visitor with quiet respect. She admired his stillness, his way of listening more than he spoke, his habit of observing everything around him. But even on such a joyful day, a small edge of worry lingered in the back of Taza's mind. He had noticed signs earlier in the week, tracks on the ground near the river that did not belong to anyone in their village. The faint smell of campfire smoke coming from a place where no one should be camping, and the uneasy behavior of the horses early one morning. He had not wanted to bring fear into the wedding day, so he kept the worries in his heart, pushing them down for a little more time. But they were still there, like a quiet whisper behind the music. Nalin, with her gentle way of sensing emotions, noticed something in Taza's eyes. She knew he was happy, but she also felt he was watching the edges of the village too often. She leaned closer and asked softly, "Is something troubling you?" Taza gave her a small smile and squeezed her hand lightly. He did not want to spoil her joy, so he simply said, "We will talk later. Today is for peace." And though she wished for a fuller answer, she trusted him completely. As the sun moved lower in the sky, people began to return to their homes. The drums grew quieter, and the village settled back into its normal rhythm. A few elders stayed behind to bless the path leading to Taza and Nalin's new home, placing small stones as symbols of guidance and protection. The couple walked slowly behind them, holding hands, feeling the weight of their new life together. The wind felt cooler now, brushing softly against their faces, as if welcoming them into a new chapter. Their home was simple, with woven mats on the ground, a few handcrafted pots, blankets made from sheep wool, and a small fire pit in the center. Nalin stepped inside and looked around with quiet joy. It was not large or full of fancy things, but it felt warm, safe, and ready to become the place where memories would grow. Taza stood behind her, watching her expression, feeling grateful that she liked their home. As night settled over the land, the sky filled with stars. A faint silver glow shined across the desert, reflecting on the rocks and tall grasses. Inside the home, Taza and Nalin shared their first quiet moments together as husband and wife. They spoke softly about their hopes, their duties, and their dreams for the coming seasons. Taza finally told her about the small signs he had noticed earlier in the week, not to frighten her, but because he believed honesty was the strongest foundation for their life. Nalin listened with steady eyes and simply nodded. She did not become afraid. Instead, she understood that this was the world they lived in. She trusted Taza's judgment, and she knew he would always be careful. Outside, the night remained peaceful. The air was cool, the stars bright, the village quiet. But beneath that quiet, Taza felt something shifting around them, a sense that their lives were about to change sooner than expected. Yet, as he watched Nalin fall asleep beside the small fire, her face peaceful and soft, he made a silent promise to himself. No matter what came, he would keep her safe, he would protect their home, and he would always stand with courage. In that moment, the world outside did not matter. Only the gentle rise and fall of her breath filled his thoughts, and the simple truth that they now walked the same path together. Their wedding day ended with calm hearts and hopeful spirits. They did not know what the next days would bring, but for now, they rested in the warmth of new beginnings, unaware of how soon their strength would be tested. The next morning arrived softly, with the sky glowing in pale gold as the sun rose over the distant hills. A gentle breeze moved through the village, lifting the smoke from cooking fires and carrying the smell of warm bread. Taza stepped out of his home quietly, letting Nalin rest a little longer. She had worked long the previous day, helping with the wedding preparations, greeting guests, and sharing joy with everyone. He wanted her to wake peacefully, without rush. Taza stood outside and looked toward the open land beyond the village. The world always felt widest at sunrise, as if the light revealed secrets that the night tried to hide. He breathed deeply, hoping that the uneasiness in his chest would soften. But it did not. Something in the air felt different. Not dangerous, just different, as though a message was hidden in the wind, waiting for someone to notice it. He walked slowly toward the edge of the village, where the ground dipped into a small valley filled with tall grass. Taza often came here to think. He kneeled and touched the earth, letting grains of sand fall from his fingers. The ground was warm, but the tracks he had seen days earlier still worried him. They were faint now, softened by the elements. But they had been there. Footprints that did not belong to their people. Taza did not assume the worst, but he never ignored unusual things either. His elders had taught him that the land always spoke first, long before humans understood. As he stood, he heard footsteps behind him, light and familiar. It was Nalin, wrapped in a soft blanket, her hair loosely falling over her shoulders. She greeted him with a gentle smile and stood beside him without saying anything at first. She always knew when silence was needed more than words. After a moment, Taza told her, "I came to look at the tracks again." His voice was calm, but Nalin could hear the thoughtful tone beneath it. She looked at the ground but saw nothing now. "Do you feel something coming?" she asked quietly. Taza did not answer right away. He watched a hawk circle far above them, its wings gliding smoothly through the morning air. The bird moved with purpose, scanning the land below. Birds often sense changes in the world before humans did. Taza respected that. "I don't know what it is," he finally said. "Not danger, just movement. Someone has passed here. Someone not from our people." Nalin nodded slowly. She trusted his instincts more than anything. If Taza felt something, then it was real. She did not feel fear, only awareness, a kind of alertness that gently settled in her thoughts. They walked back to the village together, side by side. The people were already awake. Women were grinding corn. Children were feeding the horses, and elders were sitting near the fires, warming their hands and sharing morning stories. Everything looked normal, peaceful, but Taza still scanned the surroundings with careful eyes, not wanting to miss anything. Later that day, a small group of scouts returned from their usual trip along the river. They approached Taza's home and greeted him respectfully. One of them, a young man named Soma, stepped forward. He had been learning from Taza for months and admired him greatly. "Taza," Soma said, "we saw something near the river. Not people, just signs. Like someone was watching from far away." Nalin, who had been preparing herbs inside their home, stepped out quietly to listen. Taza asked, "What signs?" Soma hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "We found a place where someone had sat. The grass was pressed down. A small stick was broken, like someone leaned on it. But there were no footprints near it. Only the marks of someone crouching." Taza thought deeply. The river was an important place for them, used for gathering water and for daily life. Someone sitting nearby without approaching the village was curious behavior. Not dangerous, but curious. "Did you see anyone?" Taza asked calmly. "No," Soma answered. "Only the place where someone had been." Taza thanked him, and the scouts left to report to the elders. When they were alone again, Nalin looked at Taza with quiet concern. "Do you think someone is trying to come close to our village?" "Maybe," he replied. "Maybe they are just passing travelers. Or maybe they are seeking something." "What would they seek?" she asked. "Sometimes people seek safety. Sometimes they seek land. And sometimes they seek understanding," Taza answered. "We do not know yet." Throughout the afternoon, Taza continued observing the land. He watched the direction of the wind, the sound of distant movement, the behavior of the horses tied near the homes. Horses, like birds, often sensed unusual things before humans did. Usually they moved calmly, but today they lifted their heads more often, looking toward the south. Not in fear, just curiosity. Nalin spent the day preparing food and organizing their home. She wanted everything to feel settled and warm, especially because she sensed that Taza needed peace around him while he tried to understand what was happening. But even as she worked, she kept one ear open to the outside, listening to the sound of footsteps, voices, and the shifting wind. In the late afternoon, the sky began to change. Soft clouds drifted across the horizon, casting shadows over the land. The air grew cooler, and the village felt quieter, almost as if everyone was waiting for something. Taza sat outside with an older man named Yona, who had known Taza since he was a child. Yona had wise eyes that always seemed to see deeper than others. "You sense movement around us," Yona said, not as a question but as a statement. Taza nodded respectfully. "Yes, not harm, just movement." Yona stroked his chin thoughtfully. The land always speaks before anything happens. Sometimes softly, sometimes loudly. You have always been good at hearing its soft voice. What do you think it means? Taza asked. Something is shifting, Yona said. People move for many reasons, searching for a place to rest, a place to belong, or a place to understand. But not all movement brings trouble. Some brings connection. Taza listened carefully. His heart felt slightly lighter hearing those words. As evening arrived, warm colors stretched across the sky. Nalan prepared a small meal of roasted corn, herbs, and fresh bread. They sat together outside their home, eating quietly while watching the sunset. The peaceful moment helped Taza relax a little. He looked at Nalan and felt grateful for her steady presence. She did not worry loudly. She held worry softly, like a gentle weight that did not disturb others. When the sky finally darkened, stars began to shine again, bright and clear. Children finished their games, families gathered inside their homes, and the village slowly settled into night. But just as Taza prepared to go inside, he heard something faint, very faint. A sound carried lightly on the wind. It was not footsteps. It was not talking. It was something far away, like a soft echo. He couldn't identify it fully, but he felt it in his chest more than heard it with his ears. Nalan noticed the change in his expression. She touched his arm gently. "Is it the same feeling?" she asked. Taza nodded slowly. "Yes, the movement is closer now." Nalan stayed calm, her voice steady. "Whatever comes, we will face it together. You are not alone in this." Her words settled into his heart like warm light. He took her hand and guided her inside. They sat near the small fire, letting the crackling flames fill the silence. Outside, the night remained quiet. No danger, no fear, only a sense of something traveling through the world, approaching gently, like a story walking toward the village. Taza did not know what the next day would bring, but he knew he must stay alert, watchful, and calm. And he knew that Nalan's presence would give him strength, no matter what they faced. For now, they rested. The stars shined above them. The wind whispered softly through the grass, and the land continued to send messages in its quiet, patient way. That night arrived with a quiet stillness that felt different from every night before it. The moon rose slowly behind the mountains, spreading silver light across the village. The sky was clear, and the stars shined like tiny lamps watching from above. The wind moved gently, brushing through the tall grass and creating soft whispers around the homes. Everything looked peaceful. But Taza could not ignore the feeling that something was approaching, something calm. Not harmful, but unexpected. Inside their home, Taza and Nalan sat near the warm fire. The small flames flickered softly, painting gentle orange light on the walls. Nalan hummed a low, soothing melody, a tune her grandmother used to sing. Taza listened quietly, feeling comfort in her voice. But his thoughts still drifted toward the open land outside the village. His instincts were awake, alert, and patient. Nalan noticed the look in his eyes, the same thoughtful look he carried since morning. She placed her hand lightly on his arm and said, "You are thinking again about the signs, aren't you?" Taza nodded. "Yes. The wind is different tonight. It feels like something is coming close." Do you think it is a person?" Nalan asked. "Maybe," he answered. "Maybe only travelers passing by. But they are moving slowly, not in a hurry." Nalan listened carefully. She trusted Taza's sense of the land more than anything. He could read the world around him the way others read stories. She felt no fear, only curiosity. After a moment, Taza stood up and moved toward the entrance of their home. He lifted the curtain slightly and looked outside. The village was quiet. A few homes still had small fires glowing inside, but most families were already asleep. The night smelled clean, like fresh air and soft earth. He stepped out quietly, signaling Nalan to stay inside. She watched him for a moment, her eyes calm but alert. She knew he wasn't worried. only careful. Taza walked toward the open field on the southern side of the village, taking slow, steady steps. He wasn't hiding or rushing, he was simply listening with his whole body. The silence of the night felt deeper here, as if the land itself was holding its breath. He stopped and closed his eyes, letting the wind move across his face, and then he heard it again, a faint sound coming from far away, like someone walking slowly on dry grass. He opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He could not see anyone, only the soft shimmer of moonlight over the land. But he knew someone was out there. Not close, but not far either, someone traveling with care. Just then, he felt a gentle presence behind him. Nalin had come to stand near him. She had not wanted to disturb him, so she moved quietly, like the night itself. When Taza turned and saw her, she gave him a small smile. "I could not stay inside," she whispered softly. "The night feels too awake." Taza nodded. "You feel it too." Together, they stood at the edge of the village, listening to the world around them. The sound was faint, but both of them sensed it now. Soft footsteps, calm and steady, moving slowly toward their land. Nalin whispered, "Maybe they are lost." "Maybe," Taza said. "Or maybe they are looking for a place to rest." They stayed there for a while longer, letting the night speak. The sound did not grow louder or faster. It stayed slow and steady, like someone traveling with thoughtfulness, not urgency. That made Taza feel more at ease. Whoever was out there was not rushing, not sneaking, not hiding. They were simply walking. After a while, Taza gently guided Nalin back inside their home. Even though he wasn't afraid, he wanted her to stay safe and calm. But before she stepped through the doorway, he leaned toward her and whispered, "Come." Lie face down. His voice was not harsh. It was soft, careful, protective. Nalin understood immediately. He was not asking her to hide in fear. He wanted her to stay low inside the house so she wouldn't be seen by any passing travelers who might glance toward the homes. Sometimes it was better for women and elders to stay out of sight when unknown visitors passed by. Just as a simple precaution, Nalin nodded and went inside. She lay down gently on the woven mat near the fire, using a soft blanket to cover herself. The blanket was the same color as the earth walls, blending her form naturally with the room. She felt no fear, only trust in Taza's instincts. Taza stayed at the entrance for several minutes, looking out into the quiet night. He did not see anyone approaching yet, but he could feel the movement getting slightly nearer. He didn't call for anyone. He didn't wake the elders or the scouts. There was no need. The steps were calm, no rush, no uncertainty. After watching the land for a bit longer, he quietly returned inside. Nalin looked up at him with calm eyes from where she lay. Taza shut the curtains softly and sat beside her. He didn't ask her to sit up yet. Instead, he kept the place dim, letting only a small part of the fire continue to glow. "This is only for a short time," he said gently. "Someone is walking near our land. They may pass by without stopping." Nalin nodded. "I trust you." Taza smiled faintly. Her calmness reassured him more than anything else. They stayed like that for a while, listening to the soft crackle of the fire. Outside, the faint footsteps continued their slow journey. They came close enough that Taza could tell the number 2 people, walking side by side. The steps were balanced, steady, and peaceful. Travelers, perhaps, moving under the moonlight, so the day's heat would not tire them. Taza listened carefully. He could tell their direction by the sound. They were moving along the outer edge of the land, not toward the village center. They were not stopping, nor turning. They were simply passing through, maybe seeking a water source or a resting place farther ahead. After some time, the footsteps began to fade. The sound grew fainter, softer, until it became part of the wind. Taza waited a little longer to be sure, then gently touched Nalin's shoulder. "You can sit up now," he said with quiet warmth. She rose from the mat, wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, and looked into Taza's eyes. "They passed by?" "Yes," he said. "They did not come close." Nalin breathed a small sigh of relief. not from fear but from understanding that the moment had settled. She stood and added wood to the fire, letting it glow brighter again. Taza continued listening for a while, but he felt the tension in his chest ease. The visitors were peaceful travelers, likely searching for their own path through the land. Nothing more. Nalin made a warm drink from herbs and handed it to him. "Here," she said softly. "You have been awake in your thoughts all day." Taza accepted the cup and took a slow sip. The warm liquid eased his mind. Nalin sat beside him, their shoulders touching lightly. The night slowly returned to its natural quiet. The same quiet that had filled it before their wedding. The stars continued to shine gently, and the breeze grew warmer again. Taza looked at Nalin with deep appreciation. She did not panic. She did not worry loudly. She understood his instincts and trusted his decisions. Her calmness made him stronger. They sat together for a long time, listening to the peaceful night. Eventually, Nalin rested her head on Taza's shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her gently. Tomorrow might bring more signs, or new questions, or unexpected visitors. But tonight was quiet again. The land had spoken. The travelers had passed, and the village remained safe and still. And in that quiet moment, Taza realized something important. Whatever came their way in the future, Nalin's presence would always give him strength. Morning returned quietly to the village after the strange night. The sun rose slowly, sending soft golden light across the open land. Birds began singing early, as if welcoming a new beginning. The night had passed without trouble, but the memory of the calm footsteps in the darkness still sat in Taza's thoughts. He wasn't worried, only curious. He wanted to understand who the travelers were, and why they had come so close without stopping. Nalin woke early as well. She stepped outside their home and stretched her arms toward the warm sky. The air smelled clean, filled with the freshness of dawn. When she looked toward the field where Taza had stood the night before, she felt a small pull of curiosity in her chest. The land looked peaceful, but it held a story she didn't know yet. Taza was already awake, walking slowly along the southern path of the village. He was studying the earth again, checking for any new signs. When Nalin joined him, he greeted her with a warm smile. "You slept well?" "Yes," she said. "And you?" Taza shrugged softly. "A little. My mind was listening to the night, even while I rested." Nalin touched his arm lightly. "Your heart works hard for the village and for us. But remember to rest too." Taza smiled at her kindness. It always calmed him. As they walked together, the earth showed faint signs of the travelers from the night before. A few soft footprints pressed into the dirt, moving in a straight line toward the hills in the south. Nalin knelt beside one of the prints and touched the ground gently. "They walked slowly," she observed. "Yes," Taza said, "and with steady steps. They were not afraid." "Do you want to follow the tracks?" Nalin asked softly. Taza looked at her with thoughtful eyes. "Not too far. I only want to understand who walks near our land." Nalin nodded. "Then, I will walk with you." Nalin. Nalin. They began to follow the faint path together, moving away from the village but not too far. The morning was cool, and the tall grass brushed softly against their legs. Birds flew overhead, casting moving shadows on the ground. Everything felt calm. As they walked, Taza felt the land growing quieter. It was not an unsettling quiet, only the kind of stillness that comes before understanding something new. He felt Nalin's presence beside him, and felt grateful she was with him. She brought balance to his thoughts. After a while, they reached a small hill. From the top, they could see far across the land. The village behind them looked peaceful, small but strong, and ahead of them, in the distance, were the hills where the travelers had gone. Nalin shaded her eyes with her hand and looked carefully. "Do you see anything?" Taza narrowed his eyes, studying the distant horizon. After a long moment, he said, "Yes. There are two figures walking toward the far hill. They are too far to see clearly, but they are moving with calm steps." Nalin followed his gaze. She could see the shapes too, two people, walking side by side. "They look like they are on their own journey," she said quietly. "Yes," Taza agreed. "And they did not come into the village. They only passed by the edges." They stood together for a moment longer, watching the distant travelers. There was no reason to follow them further. Taza felt satisfied knowing they were peaceful people simply moving through the land. Nalin felt relieved too. The world held many travelers, and not all wished to cause trouble. As they walked back toward the village, the sun climbed higher. The warmth spread across their faces, and the calmness of the early day returned. When they reached the village entrance, they saw some of the elders waiting. One of them, an older woman named Saheli, spoke first. "You looked far this morning," she said kindly. "Yes," Taza replied. "The travelers from last night were still moving south. They did not come close." Saheli nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "This land has always been crossed by many. Sometimes they need shelter. Sometimes only water. But the land knows how to guide them." Another elder asked, "Do you think they will return?" "I do not feel so," Taza answered. "Their path is steady and straight. They seem to know where they are going." The elders seemed satisfied with his answer. They trusted Taza's judgment deeply. The day continued quietly. Children played near the river, women washed clothes, and men prepared tools and checked the horses. Life returned to its steady rhythm. Yet even though everything looked normal, many people felt a soft curiosity about the travelers from the night before. Later in the afternoon, a gentle gathering formed near the central fire. Families sat in a circle, listening to stories told by the elders. Nalin sat beside Taza, enjoying the warmth of the moment. The village always held peaceful gatherings like this, a time to share lessons, laughter, and old wisdom. One elder spoke about the land. "Every traveler carries a story," he said. "Some stories are loud, some are quiet, and some are still unfolding. But every story teaches us something, if we listen, with open hearts." Nalin looked at Taza and smiled. The elders' words fit perfectly with what they experienced last night. When the gathering ended, Taza helped an older man carry baskets back to his home. Nalin helped two women gather herbs. The simple tasks brought comfort, reminding them that life continued with balance and patience. As evening returned, the sky turned soft shades of orange and pink. Taza and Nalin walked together near the river. The water shimmered in the fading light, creating ripples that glowed like silver threads. The gentle sound of flowing water relaxed their hearts. Nalin broke the silence. "Do you think we will learn more about those travelers one day?" Taza thought for a moment. "Maybe. The land often brings people together when the time is right. Maybe their story will cross with ours again. Or maybe it was only meant to pass by us once. Either way," Nalin said softly, "I'm glad you trusted your instincts." "And I am glad you trusted me," Taza replied. "Your calmness helped me see clearly." They stood near the river for a long time, letting the cool breeze pass over them. The night birds began singing, joining the gentle sound of the water. Far away in the south, the land stretched open and wide. Somewhere in that distance, the travelers continued their journey. Taza did not know who they were or what they sought, but he felt peace knowing they were not a danger. As they walked back to their home, Nalin slipped her hand into his. "Whatever comes next," she said softly, "we will face it with calm hearts." Taza nodded, feeling her words settle warmly inside him. "Yes," he said. Together, the night settled gently over the village once again. Fires glowed softly inside the homes, and the stars returned to their places in the sky. The land felt steady, balanced, and calm. Taza and Nalin sat near their fire, sharing quiet conversation, their new life continuing gently. They did not know what the coming days would bring, but they felt ready for anything because they had each other, and because they listened to the land as patiently as the elders had taught them. After the long and stressful night, the first soft light of morning slowly touched the village. The sky turned pale orange and gentle pink, as if nature itself wanted to comfort the tired people. Smoke still floated above some homes, and the air carried the scent of dust and burnt wood, but the danger had passed. The quiet sunrise felt like a small promise that life would continue. Taza walked carefully across the open ground, his steps slow and thoughtful. His clothes were covered with dust, and his face showed both exhaustion and relief. He had spent the entire night helping the elders, checking on frightened children, and making sure no one was left alone. Even though he had not slept at all, his heart remained strong. He knew the worst moments were behind them. Now came the part that required even more strength, caring for his people and rebuilding what was lost. Nalan rose from where she had been resting near a safe corner of their home. She had stayed awake until the early hours, listening to the distant sounds of movement as people helped one another. When she saw Taza returning, her eyes softened with gratitude. She walked toward him slowly, as if afraid the moment might disappear. When she reached him, she simply placed her hand on his arm. No words were needed. He understood. Taza gently nodded and gave her a small smile. He was thankful to see her unharmed. The memory of whispering to her the night before still filled his mind. He remembered how she lay quietly and trusted him completely. That trust had given him strength. Now, seeing her safe in the peaceful morning light felt like a gift. Around them, the village began to wake. People came out of their homes, some carrying blankets, others holding baskets of food that had survived the long night. Children stayed close to their mothers, holding their hands tightly. The elders moved slowly, leaning on wooden sticks, but their eyes remained alert, watching everything with wisdom shaped by many years. Taza and Nalan joined a small group of villagers near the center of the settlement. Everyone spoke in calm voices, sharing small details about the night and checking on one another. There was sadness among them, but there was also unity. They stood together, not as individuals but as one community that had faced something difficult and remained standing. The chief, an older man with a gentle voice, addressed the people. He reminded them that strength was not shown only in moments of danger. Strength was also shown in how a community cared for one another afterward. His words encouraged everyone, including Taza and Nalan. They felt the weight of responsibility, but they also felt hopeful. Soon, people began working to clean the village. Some picked up fallen branches and scattered stones. Some gathered tools to repair broken walls. Others brought water from the nearby stream to wash away dust and ash. Taza stepped forward to help wherever he was needed. He carried heavy beams to rebuild damaged homes and offered support to elders who could not move easily. Even though he was tired, each task reminded him of the purpose he carried in his heart. Nalan helped too. She comforted children who looked worried, telling them soft stories about the rising sun and how each new day brings fresh beginnings. She guided women who were organizing food for everyone, and she made sure no one went hungry. She moved from person to person with gentle calmness, and her presence brought peace to those around her. Many people thanked her, calling her a blessing to the village. As the morning turned to afternoon, the sun warmed the ground, and light filled every corner of the settlement. The village no longer felt frightened or broken. It felt alive again. People laughed softly as they worked, sharing old memories and reminding one another of brighter days. Children began playing near the edge of the open area, jumping over small stones and making drawings in the sand. Their laughter gave the entire village strength. Taza watched this scene with a thoughtful heart. He remembered how, only hours ago, he feared the worst. Now, seeing his people stand together, he felt a deep sense of pride. He realized that courage was found not only in standing strong during a difficult moment, but also in choosing to rebuild afterward, with kindness and patience. Nalan joined him, her face warm with a quiet smile. "Our people are strong," she said softly. Taza nodded. "Yes," he replied. "And they make us strong too." They stood side by side, watching families support one another. The simple sight of unity filled them with hope. By late afternoon, the village looked different, but in a good way. Many homes had been repaired. Walkways were cleared. Food was shared. People sat together, offering encouraging words and discussing plans for the coming days. Every person had played a part in the recovery, no matter how big or small their contribution. The feeling of togetherness was stronger than ever. When evening approached, the sky turned deep orange and purple. A calm breeze moved through the village, carrying away the last traces of fear. The chief invited everyone to gather in a circle near the central fire pit. Though the fire was small, its glow was warm. The whole village sat together, forming a large ring of families, elders, and children. Taza and Nalin sat among them, hand in hand. The chief spoke once again, thanking everyone for their courage and reminding them that true strength came from unity, care, and respect. His words were slow and steady, touching the hearts of all who listened. He ended his speech by saying that this day would be remembered not as a day of loss but as a day when love and community shined brightest. After the chief's message, families whispered quiet prayers for peace and protection. Some shared gentle songs, their voices blending with the night breeze. The stars appeared above, bright and peaceful, as if watching over them. Taza looked up at the sky, feeling the soft rhythm of Nalin's breaths beside him. He realized that their marriage had begun with a test, but it had also shown them how deeply they cared for one another. Nalin had trusted him completely, and he had done everything he could to protect her. In return, she had become a source of calm that strengthened him from within. Nalin turned to him and whispered, "We will build beautiful days from now on." Taza smiled. "Yes," he said, "together." As the night grew deeper, people slowly returned to their homes, carrying with them renewed hope. Taza and Nalin walked quietly to their small house, feeling grateful for the safety of their village and for the promise of their shared future. The stars guided them like soft lights in the sky. Inside their home, the warmth of the day's unity stayed with them. They sat together for a long moment, appreciating the peace. Taza felt a gentle happiness settle in his chest, knowing that they were part of something larger than themselves. A strong community, a loving bond, and a story of hope that would be remembered for many years. Their first days as a married couple had been unexpected, but they had also revealed something beautiful. They had discovered their own courage, the kindness of their people, and the power of standing together. The village had survived, hearts had remained strong, and a new chapter had begun, one filled with trust, healing, and promise. In the quiet of that night, Taza and Nalin understood that their journey would not always be easy, but they also knew they had each other, and with that, they could face anything that life brought to them. The peaceful wind outside whispered through the trees, as if blessing their future with calm and hope. Their story would be told for generations, not as a tale of fear but as a gentle reminder that even in difficult moments, love, unity, and courage can guide people toward brighter days.